Now I continue my second topic about smart disaster response. Look at the topic, of course, follow the first section. I will continue to talk about how to use the ICT, information communication technology, to help disaster response. I still use Taiwan as one example. Taiwan, maybe some of you ever been to Taiwan. Taiwan is a small island. The longest part, 400 kilometers. The widest part, 145. And the most important thing, over 70% of Taiwan is in slopeland area. Talk about vulnerability, because we are one island country. So urban type vulnerability is our major concern. Look at the population density per square kilometer. The number is 647. If we talk any country population over 10 million, Taiwan just lower than Bangladesh. So if any earthquake happen in urban area, it will be our most challenge. And there are two major disaster to Taiwan. First is about earthquake, especially tectonic movement. This district is the Philippine Sea Plate sub beneath Eurasia Plate. So maybe over 80% earthquake happen in this region. You might see some news footage on television early this year, especially in February. One earthquake hit eastern part of Taiwan and caused 17 people died. It was a tectonic movement at the Philippine Sea Plate and Eurasia Plate because the movement triggered one fault move in Walan district here and caused 17 people die. Another high risk to Taiwan is about typhoon. On average, every year we have 3.6 typhoon, but typhoon also very valuable to Taiwan because we need fresh water. Typhoon always bring fresh water to us, so we must have balanced number of typhoon. So in case we have the insufficient typhoon previous year, we might have drought problem next year. So I try to identify some impact brought by typhoon and earthquake. By typhoon, this is the typical case ever happened in 2009 after Typhoon Morocco. You see, one hotel collapsed into the river channel because foundation erosion. And urban type disaster I mentioned. You see, the picture was taken in downtown Taipei after Typhoon Nari 2001. In this event, I think over 50% of Taipei area was inundated because of the flood brought by typhoon. Another one, the brick floor. Maybe in your country got named mud floor, but in Taiwan we give a very specific name, the breeze floor, because coming along with mud floor, there are a lot of debris coming down with the mud floor that is very destructive. I mentioned 70% of Taiwan in mountainous area, so we had a lot of the highway in mountain area. In that case, we have typhoon or torrential rain, kind of landslide will interrupt the transportation system. About earthquake, all the four pictures were taken after Chichi earthquake in 1999. In 1999, Chichi earthquake killed about 2.5 thousand people. This is one of the remarkable pictures. This is the track and field stadium in the junior high school. After earthquake, the thrust force caused about the 3.0 meter uplift by force movement. Not just destruction to campus, but also this is a picture in downtown Taipei. A building collapsed, caused about the 30 people die. Even infrastructure, you see, this dam, this part of the dam was uplifted by Chi earthquake movement and caused some water supply problem in central part of Taiwan. Another one is damage to school building. This is the same school as this picture. Because of earthquake hit in the early morning, 1:47 a.m. At that time, there was no student in schools, so we were lucky. No student died in school. But however, when we witnessed kind of the destruction, we have initiated a serious program to retrofit school. Now, if you had chance to visit Taiwan, I can show you to this school. Actually, this picture and this picture are in same school. Now we preserved this collapse a junior high school as a museum to remind people about power of earthquake. Another important thing why we have to enhance disaster resilience in Taiwan, exposure is one of reason. This map, published by Maplecroft in the 2011, is identify economic activity exposed to nature hazard. On this map, there are 4 countries around the world listed as high risk. Number 1, United States. Number 2, Japan. Number 3, China. And number 4, Taiwan. So for this reason, in Taiwan, we have to put our attention on disaster risk reduction to enhance resilience. Otherwise, the major economic income to Taiwan may be interrupted by natural disaster. But the same company also published another index in the 2013. They called it social economic resilience. They want to understand resilience in individual country. In this report, it highlights Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan at low risk in this region. Of course, you remember the previous one. Taiwan as kind of extreme level. However, Taiwan and Japan, how could be listed as low risk in this report? For case of Taiwan, I highlight 4 reasons. First, application of science and technology. In Taiwan, we emphasize both research and implementation. We want to combine 2 elements together. So we had several products. Fundamental thing, transparent risk. Right now from the website, all citizens are able to download risk map or check GIS system to understand risks of flood, landslide, debris flow, location of fault lines, and even to understand the potential of the soil liquefaction. Another point is well-organized legal framework. Like many countries, unless we have large-scale disaster, we never have law legal system to guide disaster risk management. Since we had big earthquake in 1999, a year later we passed Disaster Prevention and Response Act. Right now, this act is leading disaster risk management in Taiwan. And in the 2009, we suffered another big setback I mentioned in previous slide from Typhoon Morocco. We also upgrade our system and set up Office of Disaster Management to coordinate emergency response and the disaster risk management. Another one is active participation by private sector. In Taiwan, we had NGO, NPO community and the school professor, even a lot of professional group, they are willing to join disaster risk reduction. So it kind of involvement from the whole society. And also let me to introduce the framework of disaster management in Taiwan, especially as a central government. As I mentioned, my office, National Science and Technology for Disaster Reduction. Similar office like NCDR usually should under the Ministry of Interior MOI or Military Civil Defense. But however, my office is under supervision of MOST. MOST stands for Ministry of Science and Technology. That is a very important connection from disaster management with science and technology. NCDI is kind of a window. We introduce a lot of the science and technology to government sector, and I also explained to private sector for better enhance the disaster resilience. I said NCDR is under authority of most. However, NCDR employee are not government servant or government official. We just the government hire a disaster manager or a scientist to help for disaster management. So that is quite unique organization around the world talking about how to introduce the scientist, engineer into the disaster management system, especially in case of emergency response. So NCDR have to provide a lot of scientific consultation to Central Disaster Prevention and Protection Council, chaired by Vice Premier, or even we have help to coordinate a lot of suggestions presented to Premier. Premier will chair the Central Disaster Prevention and Protection Council. This is our central government organization, especially kind of the mechanism designed for science and technology. In case of emergency, we will operate Central Emergency Operating Center for typhoon or for earthquake. So most of government agency will join the operation immediately. In Taiwan, we also very unique design. We call it the Central Regulating Authority of Disaster Prevention and Response. For example, MOI, Ministry of Interior, is responsible for typhoon, earthquake, major fire, and blast. Likewise, the MOEA, Ministry of Economic Affairs, is in charge of the floods, droughts, pipeline problem, and also transmission tower or a mining accident. So this is our central framework. But look at my office. I explained it's quite unique one. Actually, NCDR is one of the key roles to help to build up smart disaster response. Actually, NCDR is under supervision of Ministry of Science and Technology, and most offer funding and supervision to NCDR. But in another way, NCDR will propose some topic to most, then most to launch research project, and NCDR take the output for implementation into public sector or private sector. Nowadays, we emphasize all hazard approach. So in my office, actually, we include background of diverse discipline, including natural science, social science, engineering, emergency management, and business management. And the most important thing, we emphasize we provide a lot of services, including science and technology transfer from academia community into government sector or scientific science and technology innovation. When we receive some output from most, we'll try to innovate them, make it applicable in administration. And it will also be form kind of the knowledge base, database, and international collaboration. So in our key partner and stakeholder include central and local government, private sector, and we also have international outreach. We have a collaboration with the different organization in Asia Pacific area or in the other area. Very important thing, who are NCDR talking to? Here is the typical example to show how NCDR play an important role in disaster risk management. In case of decision support, this is the director, kind of leader of NCDR. During the typhoon emergency operation, he spoke to Premier and the Minister of Interior at such short distance with our information system. So this is the very good example how to use understandable common operating picture, talk to top decision maker to understand situation and make decision. The same when our president visited the Central Emergency Operations Center, NCDR have also reported to the top decision maker in Taiwan. This is we call it evidence-based operation. But we still want to have some grassroots level implementation. So my colleague will also go to the community to bring science and technology into their life. Please look at this model. Now, this is kind of the homemade 3D topography, but it's not just made by my colleague. Actually, it's a teamwork by local resident. We use this kind of model as very good example to explain kind of the slopeland problem or flood problem to people living in this community. Through the group discussion, through the training, actually we try to bring scenario-based drill in the community and also deliver a good risk map for the community. This is I mentioned how we can achieve kind of this from the previous presentation, from data to action. So during the whole process, we make the most use of data and information and make them into information intelligence. I explained in previous section, change people's mind no matter at the top decision level or at grassroots level. This is how we make the most use of science, technology, and knowledge. In our office wing, also very unique ones. In this building include several important units. The third and fourth floor is our National Emergency Operations Center. Fifth floor, I mentioned, is Office of Disaster Management. 6 to 8, National Fire Agency. NCDR is located at 9th floor. Above my office also have some agency related to emergency response. No matter when we got emergency call, like a typhoon or earthquake, we will meet together at the third and fourth floor and operate emergency. So this kind of the quick view of the Central Emergency Operating Center. Next time you have the visit to my office, I will show you this operation route for better explanation. So how we carry out kind of operation in the EOC, especially for typhoon. This is the organization chart in the Central Emergency Operating Center. We had a commander, we had a co-commander, and deputy commander. And NCDR is in charge one of the groups under Chief Staff Division. Actually, this is idea about emergency support function, and NCDR is one of the EOC to help for situation assessment. How we work with other government agency, this picture will tell you. NCDR as the leader of situation assessment group, NCDR will call the meeting. We will have certain member, including Water Resource Agency. They'll provide a lot of hydro information, water level gauge, operation in dam or pumping station. They also offer my office a lot of real-time video. And we also have National Fire Agency. They collect a lot of situation report and also in charge logistics support to Central Emergency Operating Center. Highway Bureau actually they provide a lot of information of road closure or the interruption to highway system. Soil and the Water Conservation Bureau provide information about the debris floor hazard. And Central Weather Bureau provide very important role It offers us a lot of the parameter about the weather. So based on the parameter of typhoon, weather, temperature, and everything, my office will run some numerical model to estimate impact. Another member to situation assessment group is Office of Disaster Management. In case of any urgency, the Office of Disaster Management will inform local government directly. Do remember one thing, we have the Weather Bureau here is the authorized government unit to forecast weather. So the job for NCDI and this group, actually we are not focusing on weather forecast. However, I emphasize, it's kind of the impact assessment. We try to estimate possible impact could be brought by typhoon. So we have very clear boundary with the Central Weather Bureau. We never do any weather forecast during emergency operation. So this is I mentioned in the previous slide. We try to answer the question here. Actually, based on our question, you see, we can deploy army to possibly affected area or ex-army or government sector to help for early evacuation, even though we can deploy some facility or equipment in advance of flood. So how we integrate information in emergency operation, we emphasize information flow. Because of information flow, we can have clear job definition for each team, and we can also form very good teamwork. Basically, in case of typhoon, we will try to look at three basic elements. The root one is weather information. Based on the weather information, we try to estimate kind of the hydro has a warning or geo has a warning. Hydro warning, of course, kind of flash flood or flood in urban area. Geo has like landslide, debris flood, or other related disaster. So Central Weather Bureau will provide qualitative information of typhoon and rain, and also some observed data of rainfall, and also forecast the wind gusts and rainfall. Based on this too, we divide it into two parts, Water Resource Agency and Construction and Planning Agency. The two agencies will provide a lot of flood information, like flood in river channels or flood in urban area. Likewise, Soil and Water Conservation Bureau, Directorate General of the Highway, and NCDR will estimate about possible impact from the viewpoint of geohazard. And the NCDR actually will try to integrate information and create some maps. And most important thing, when we receive information, we will combine them together. And the National Fire Agency will report some case losses. When we collect all information, we will give to Office of Disaster Management to give official announcement to the general public or to local government. How to conduct base information operation according to position of a typhoon? Actually, we divide into 4 stages. When we realize we have typhoon, so after Central Weather Bureau issues sea warning of typhoon, the Central Emergency Operation will start activation. And at CWB, send out the sea warning. Actually, in my office, we will activate a team to have the close attention to the typhoon. But when CWB issue a land warning, the COC will upgrade to level 2 operation. This is phase 2. We call it pre-disaster preparedness. The sequence in the Taiwan is kind of reverse in Western style. Our operation level from level 3 to level 2 to level 1. Level 1 means the most urgent one. So when typhoon radius come close to coast of Taiwan, the intensity of rain and wind will continue to increase. So after the phase 3, we call it emergency response. Then after typhoon leave Taiwan is quick recovery phase. So we try to divide our operation into 4 stages. By effort through the central and the local government, actually, is the good record in Taiwan we reduce the death toll because of Taiwan, except 2009 Typhoon Morocco. In the 2001 in Taiwan, we suffered 2 typhoons. The first one is Typhoon Toroji, caused 214 people dead. After the typhoon, our government received a lot of pressure from the general public. So the same year in September, is the very first time NCDR joined emergency operation, and the very first time we had pre-disaster evacuation. At that time, we evacuated 24,000 people. Look like we did decrease the death toll to 104 because you look at the maxima intensity per hour of rain and also look at the total rain during the whole event. But however, to introduce evacuation to a society is not an easy job. When we completed the first evacuation, a lot of people complain. For what? They think they didn't need kind of evacuation. So they complain that if evacuation brought lots inconvenience to them. So after that, we try to provide more precise suggestion about evacuation. Though we still suffer a lot of strong typhoon, and also show on the record a lot of the typhoon bring the heavy precipitation. But luckily, we do decrease the death toll from 3 digits. Most of the case, we can keep 1 digit of the death toll. However, Typhoon Morocco, I explained in the previous slide, is kind of extreme event. One typhoon took 700 lives. So how to have joint operation based on this chart? This will give you explanation. Weather information, kind of our offspring information source. They provide a lot of the system, image, a lot of reading, even some numerical output. So we'll divide into warning of hydro hazard, warning of the geo hazard. And after different government agency produce some alerts or warning, and the NCDR will try to disseminate into different end user. And I mentioned what is a smart response. Actually, another important thing is how we communicate with decision maker. So on this slide, we emphasize our philosophy about how to talk to decision maker. Nowadays, we request every slide we present to decision maker should include 3 elements in very neat, clean, and understandable ways. First, we must provide some scenario-based description. This is good for deployment and response in advance. Yes, as I explained, it's kind of the impact-based preparedness. Second things, we must overlap information from different sources. So from this slide and this slide, we overlap information from different government agencies. And very important thing, use the GIS and the pictures to tell a good story. This is I emphasize at information intelligence. Data presenting is a very important technique to do risk communication. For example, how we tell the possible flood is the good example here. We will first use like the estimation of flood in next 24 hours, show the location, and show the possible flood. This is a very clear message to decision maker to understand location of possible area receive floods and flood depth. Of course, I totally agreed. Kind of numerical simulation always not 100% correct. However, this is for preparedness. This is for early warning. This is how we identify disaster hotspots. So we not just use numerical data. Actually, after each event, we will collect some data from the field to understand what is kind of the missing part from our numerical model and put into our database. So next time when we find a similar rain pattern, we also will highlight once upon a time they ever had one floods in what kind of condition. So to maintain and to keep smart response, we must maintain the different database. Another one is how we present flood situation. Now we combine our information system. This is the idea how we design the picture to show the possible flood. On this map, we use several data. First is the real-time rain gauge data here and the water level gauge data here, and also real-time video. This is the rain gauge data in the upstream area. So the rain gauge data show they still have increasing trend of precipitation in upstream area. And in the middle stream area, we also find the water level gauge beneath one bridge is still rising. And even in upstream level, we also realize there have some flash flood in this area. In our case, we try to combine numerical model here. The numerical model also shows the flood situation. So on this map, we combine rain gauge data, water level gauge data, real-time TV, and this numerical simulation on the GIS map. From this one, it helps us to explain situation. Another one, we want to explain about highway situation. Same example. We use rain gauge data and the TV video provided by Highway Bureau. So from the two picture, you can realize some flood here, some waterfalls here, even some rock falling along the road. So this is why we have to close the road here. Another important thing in Taiwan, especially for typhoon, we have decided timing to conduct early evacuation. We had a clear definition of early evacuation. First, only evacuate people at the daytime, because evacuation at night is dangerous to both emergency responder and evacuee. Second thing, we need to arrange transportation to provide convenience for people to go to safe shelter. So how to, based on the two criteria, decide time to evacuate? This is our approach. First, we need historical data. This pink line is threshold value of this district. Based on the past experience, if the accumulated rainfall curve reached this point, we could have the brief floor. So this is historic data to decide threshold value. Second thing, we include observed data. You see, light blue shaded area is being observed data from the real-time rain gauge. But how we forecast time to evacuate, we still rely on numerical model. You see a lot of bar chart here, and the cumulative rainfall at this point is combined observed data and numerical data. Based on this chart, we realize in the early morning of the August 29th reach the threshold value. But as I mentioned, it's not safe to evacuate people at midnight, and that you see they could have high intensity of rain. So we will move time to evacuate people from midnight to the afternoon to ensure safety for everyone. You might ask, will NCDR verify the numerical estimation after each event? My answer is yes. Of course, the percentage could be like the 50 to 60%. But this is one example how we forecast the flash flood in mountainous area. Based on, I said, this is the observed data, this is threshold value. If the rain intensity over the threshold value, this district could have the flash flood. So we think in the early morning of August 8 in Wulai district might have flood. Actually, from news report, we did observe flash flood in mountainous area. About evacuation, here I provide two successful stories. This is a village in Pingtung County, Laiyi, after Typhoon Oracle. You see, this is satellite image after Typhoon Oracle. This village already received some devastation, but they refuse to be relocated to a safe location. They insist on living here. A year later, in the 2010, another typhoon, Typhoon Fanabi, was coming toward to this region. We know its high vulnerability in this region. So look at the time sequence. In the afternoon of the September 18th, we issue land warning, and in the same afternoon, 2 p.m., we give some early warning of the risk. Luckily, an hour later, they follow instruction to conduct evacuation. After typhoon made landfall, another debris flow attacked the village. You see, this is after Typhoon Fanabi. You see the landslide, mudslide attacked this village. 50 houses buried, but zero casualty because 400 residents already evacuated 32 hours ahead. So this is a good example. If we can have early evacuation, so we can possibly reduce the death toll. Of course, not every case shows such success. Maybe other evacuation just for safety reason, and the fact proves nothing ever happened. I give another story. Actually, this is in the Taoyuan district, north part of Taiwan. Oh, sorry. This is a village in the Taoyuan County. The previous one is the previous case is kind of top-down evacuation. However, this one is the bottom-up evacuation suggestion. You see, the mud flow just coming down from the hill and all the way running to the village. Because of early evacuation, and they can have time to take a video about how the debris flow invaded their village. This time, because the local resident received some training by government, even though the accumulated rainfall only 30 millimeters, the threshold value is the 310, but they decided to left to leave the village because they know the possible threats. So 16 hours ahead, all 32 residents safely evacuated to the shelter. So this is another good story to show why smart response is so important. And this is another example, real case, how we provide information during operation of one typhoon. This is case of the 2016. I also will update the case about last year. Based on observation of typhoon, we will clearly define how to give the good explanation, how to give the good preparation for this one. I said we emphasize impact assessment. This region show the strong guts impact area, and we will divide the typhoon into three phases. Phase 1, close to make the landfall. Phase 2, after typhoon make landfall and before departure. Third one is after departure. And based on each phase, we will give, like this is about precipitation, about rainfall, and is about the wind. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So based on the different phases, we will give impact assessment by rain or by wind. So we'll give some information to central and local government. And we also will predict where have to have landfall along the East Coast. Based on the prediction, we highlight two areas. First is Hualien, is highest possibility, and second highest possibility is to have landfall in Taidong County. Why we have to forecast the high possibility and the second highest possibility, I explained. We must to accommodate uncertainty of numerical simulation. Because of kind of the uncertainty, we need to estimate about scenario to know where are disaster hotspots to prepare for. This is the case of the typhoon last year, especially this is report of Typhoon Nisat. If you are willing to, you can subscribe my Facebook. Everything we have a situation with typhoon, earthquake. Through my Facebook, you will receive some updated report every day. How to find my Facebook? Just type my name. You can find my Facebook. As I mentioned, including uncertainty, we include forecast not just including Taiwan, we also include forecasts from US, Japan, Korea, China, and Hong Kong to focus about the typhoon, to use a lot of image to tell the possible impact. Because for this case, we might have the typhoon kind of back-to-back typhoons in about several days. So I mentioned we will estimate a possible impact, like kind of high risk impact by winds, especially from this one. This is might be impact by wind gale up, wind speed at the level 10. And also very important thing about precipitation, I emphasize phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And each phase will highlight area should be cautious about. So where are the area could receive strong rain, we also will propose kind of report to government sectors. Another very important thing is to estimate about the storm surge. This picture shows the numerical simulation, but not just simulation, we also use a buoy to check the data. So right now we use this data, this program to produce kind of the storm surge estimation day by day. And every day we'll offer a full forecast. But during the time of typhoon, it helps us to understand if high tide plus storm surge will cause some floods in low-lying area along the seashore. And I emphasize we have to tell potential risks of flood. So this is the phase one when typhoon approaching and make landfall. This is area to have the with the high risks or based on the past event, they suffer some flood. So I mentioned we not just use numerical model, we also use a lot of historical data to enhance the resolution of our forecast. So this is the phase one, this is about phase one and phase two, and this is about the phase three. And we also will give information about possible interruption to highway system to show the location of the highway and also show the location ever have disaster before. So kind of historical data also very important to help us to make a forecast. So likewise, this example it is about how we responded to an earthquake 2 years ago. 2 years ago, on February 6th at 3:57, one earthquake, the epicenter in Kaohsiung City, but brought the severe destruction to Tainan City. The peak ground acceleration reached intensity 6, and also it was an inland and shallow earthquake. You see, this building, this is before and after. I will explain how the building collapsed. You see here is this building above this one is the residential part. Beneath this floor is commercial use. So have electronic shop, one to third floor, and other shop, other office in the two floors. Because of the insufficient shear force, this building totally collapsed, and 115 people died under beneath the debris. So how we respond to this? So based on some the ground motion. So right after earthquake, actually the Central Weather Bureau will immediately generate the shake map and will also provide kind of shake map for evacuation. During the emergency operation, actually we had a level one operation. Actually, totally lasts about 9 days because we want to find all the victims from the debris. So in total, we mobilized 29,000 urban search and rescue people to help for the people trapped underneath bricks and blocks. But in my office, how we respond to this? I explained, in my office, we had a system to estimate impact or conduct some scenario-based information for drill. But after earthquake hit, 2 minutes later, we receive some parameter from the Central Weather Bureau, and we automatically produce some information. In about 20 minutes, some staff of mine reported to Central Emergency Operations Center, and later the director reported to Premier and Vice Premier about the situation. Then NCDL, my office, was also assigned as contact point to international media. Immediately, we produced a lot of information to help operation in the EOC. I show you how we produce some slide to help my colleague who first report back to office. The 3 slides I just pick up from our first report. We'll report location of the hypercenter and also some aftershocks, and also show the geoprofile nearby the hypercenter. And the intensity map also show the most affected area and also overlap intensity map with the critical infrastructure to understand possible impact. Another very important thing, you must know how to use GIS tool to show a situation. So we collect information from all teams on the ground and produce this situation map. The totally 8 photo here show the 8 totally collapsed building. And the yellow flag and red flag means the severity of damage to buildings. And this district show the liquefaction, severe liquefaction and the minor liquefaction. So from the pictures, everyone is easily to understand where are the collapsed building and how about the impact of soil liquefaction to residential buildings. And we will also accumulate a lot of data. This is death toll. We count hour by hour, see the rising trend. And the hospitalized people show after the 180 hours, the number is dropped. And they also understand the people in shelter. This is the total number in shelter. This is number in shelter. And the number of evacuation. And the most important thing is here. We want to understand how much time it took to resume a lot of public services, especially like power. From the figure, after 1 day, power, almost all power resumed, like water. After the 1.5 days, we recover about 80% household about the water supply, likewise the natural gas. And the telecommunication, including landline and mobile phone, because some mobile phone system is in the most devastating area, so we can recover almost all telecommunication relay station except some totally damaged. And about the landline, you see, almost after 1 day, 100% recovered. So this is location of damaged building. This is the number here. I'm not going into detail. But another thing is right now in Taiwan, we want to help people to pay attention to earthquake. So whenever you had a chance travel in Taiwan, I showed the previous slide, you will receive an early warning. We use the cell phone to send the early warning to use the cell phone. But right now, if you travel in Asia Pacific, you might receive kind of warning in Chinese or in Korea. So you must be alert if you receive kind of message in the future. And in Taiwan, why we use the self-broadcast services for emergency of disaster? Because we have the lesson learned from the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan, 2011. Because in Tokyo, they received early warning of earthquakes through the cell phone. So in Taiwan, we studying how to use the CBS on emergency operation of disaster. So our government has regulated all the 4G system operator to include CBS as required function and provide it as the free of charge service to government and to end users. So all 4G system operator must set up Cell Broadcast Center (CBC), and the Office of Disaster Management and my office are planning to implement the system. So the goal actually we hope to use the 4G system to offer cell broadcasting system to enhance information coverage. The outcome is CBS is good to push message to reach the mobile phone user and by an automation system. As I mentioned in the previous slide, why Taiwan has a kind of the ability to introduce the CBS in very short period of time is because since the 2013 we introduced CAP to standardize all the alert Based on the cap, we could easily transfer the alert into a CBS service. Now, totally 8 agencies joined the project. They offer and produce the standardized capped information to cell broadcast identity. Then we'll send to the mobile phone user is automatic process. This is one example. If next time you travel in Taiwan, you find your iPhone ring in this way, and on the top, one message show on. It's mean an earthquake because you see the number here. The number of users already over 50 million. So if we can send kind of alert can through the mobile phone, will reach all the end user. You see how much time it took to send information to end user. Central Weather Bureau have to monitor earthquake, receive the signal, estimate magnitude and intensity, then send the signal to my office, a cell broadcast entity. It might take just 0.16 seconds, and it took another additional 0.2 seconds to reach mobile phone system, then to relay stations sent to the network and to the end user. Usually for the 4G user from the gateway to mobile phone might take 5 seconds. But for the 3G user, right now, according to some result, it show it might take 10 seconds. So in case we operate this system for earthquake, actually all the action count by seconds. So what's an advantage to use the kind of the CBS, also called the public warning system, to connect people? Because it improves time for information transfer, and it can be kind of the location-based function, and it's a good example about public-private partnership. I explained this one in previous section, how we use information system, especially kind of common upgrade picture to local government. Oh, sorry, I also talked this one before. I will skip this one. And the last part about smart response. Right now, we should consider about new normal. So, how we prepare for a new normal? How about policy and capacity building are designed for disaster risk reduction? And how science and technology be applied to facilitate DRR collaboration among all key stakeholders? So this is the new normal. This is the picture in United States. After Hurricane Sandy, they have to elevate their house to a certain elevation to accommodate new normal kind of flood. One thing here I have to propose, we have to emphasize business operation. Traditionally, we will focus on inconvenience to people's daily life, kind of interruption of the transportation public services. But right now, we should consider about impact to disaster. If you have time, I suggest you can check a video documentary film by NHK. The title of the documentary is the Disaster Big Data Key to Recovery. Actually, right now we try to understand network of doing business and try to find impact on doing business and help them to be back as soon as possible. I mentioned because of a lot of critical infrastructure could face the threat from natural disaster. So how government and business to maintain operation continuity. So we have to have ability to monitoring system stability. I will use this one if we talk about some resilience for the business operation. We try to identify weakest link in whole supply chain. First, we must have kind of the estimation through the different ground shaking if we talk about the resilience for earthquake. So we must conduct some performance-based evaluation through scenario. I will try to divide them to three phases. During kind of evaluation, first you must understand status quo, kind of the current capacity. And another one is worst case, is to estimate extreme damage. Another is to identify target. We know it's not easy to solve kind of problem in very short period of time. If we were trying to meet demand from the worst case, it's impossible to reach kind of standard in very short period of time. So we have to identify the target and also understand kind of space for improvement. For example, through evaluation from different systems, we identify the capacity. So we set the target to improve different systems. For example, from the capacity we find, maybe bridge system, railway system, and the building and electricity, we need to improve their capacity in 3 years. So we set this target. Why? Because we must understand to kind of industrial park, we call it science park in Taiwan, we must understand lifeline system and utilities resilience like power, water, gas, telecommunication, even transportation, and understand the type of natural hazard to bring impact, earthquake, typhoon, landslide, or drought. And the most important thing, how to enhance supply chain. Think about end-to-end connectivity from upstream supplier to customer, the whole supply chain. So in the global trend, right now we had ISO 22301 as a standard to guide the BCP, but most important, how to share information. I will use this one to explain how we use disaster management to enhance, I call it kind of allowance of failure and interruption. For the small scale business, somehow they accept certain level of failures because kind of impact, the frequency to have kind of impact is high. However, the impact could be slow. But when they expanding their operation scale, they might accept limited level of failure. Look at here. If any kind of impact happen to the company because they have some preparedness, the frequency is relatively low, but impact rise. But kind of large scale company in some philosophy, they accept no failure. However, we always to remember we have the residual risk. It's kind of black swan event. It will be the challenge to both engineer method and construction. So this is why we have to use smart response to cover the risk from the residual part. So internal issue, if we talk about business continuity plan with business sector, first, daily operational plan versus contingency plan. Do they have good plan to cover two categories? Second, do they have organization to monitor risks, to inform key player, and execute necessary steps? We need authority support kind of this. And scenario-based tabletop exercise and drill to build a scenario to understand coping capability and capacity at the ultimate situation, to understand small to medium scaled impact, and even know their ultimate situation, like the worst case. Like I mentioned before, it kind of end to one to many. So how to have information integration inside the company, how to identify key information to help decision maker, and how to ensure authority to executing BCP. So come to some conclusion of my two slides. We all living in urban area, but our urban area is supporting by aging infrastructure, just like aging society. When we talk about population structure, our city is getting old day by day. So how to tell the facts about these things? For DRR, for emergency preparedness response, a kind of never-ending story. We have to solve the problem here and especially consider aging infrastructure. And do remember one thing. This is one fact I observed in Taiwan. I call it generation gap of DRR knowledge. Compare typhoon and earthquake. In Taiwan, we had almost 4 typhoons every year. So everyone's memory about typhoon is fresh. But about the destructive earthquake, it might happen every 20 years. Somehow in between the 20 years, a lot of memory gone, a lot of experienced person to deal with earthquake gone. So we will have the generation gap of DRR knowledge. So this is why we need science and technology to do smart emergent response, to document every step we make, then we can inform next generation. To conclude my slide, I will use this one to emphasize the element to have smart emergency response. First, based on science and technology, we can have science and technology help us to look at initial guess about typhoon, about earthquake, but limited to technology development. We don't have, and we never have perfect model to forecast impact brought by disaster. So we need real-time monitoring data help us to further revise our scientific output. But we had a limited number of sensors. We had a problem to transfer the data from the possible affected area to EOC. So if from the prediction, if from the monitoring, we know something could happen, so we need to have in-time operation by all decision maker, by all the citizen, even by all practitioner. So the key element to succeed actually here I emphasize try to integrate all kind of the science and technology from natural science, social science, engineering, ICT, social media, and never forget emerging technology. Some technology we are using today could be very valuable to us tomorrow. Thank you very much for your attention, and it's my honor to share my observation from Taiwan.